We talk about culture, and I think we're one of the few programs where it's still real. Like we had 11 guys that have eligibility to come back to Brown next fall. They're all coming back.
Wow.
Not one guy leaving. Uh, the culture is people. Who are the people you have, and what are their habits? What's the process? So, like we always talk about our people and our process. The more work we do on the front end, Brendan, to make sure we're getting the right people for us, they're going to drive our culture every day. So, like our culture is a culture of work, a culture of development, and a culture of care. Like our guys love to work, they love to get better, and they care about each other, and they feel the care from my staff and me every day.
Welcome to another Coaching You podcast with the coach, Brendan Suhr, presented by Noah Basketball. You know, every time we have a guest, and Zach and I try to decide who we want to have on and different things like that, we have an extensive list of people that we love, that we want to talk to, that we haven't had a chance. And because this world is full of so many incredible coaches and people. And earlier in the year, I had a discussion with our guest today and said, really want to have you on. And then everything got all jumbled in what was going on in our lives here, and the different events we were running. But today our guest, Mike Martin, the head coach of Brown University in the Ivy League, is our guest. Let me tell you about Mike. Mike was a tremendous player at Brown, played professionally overseas in Ireland, came back, became a college coach at his alma mater, then went to Penn, then back now for, I think, like 14 years as the head coach of Brown. He has developed a program that was really struggling into an elite program in the Ivy League. The thing I love about him is he's an incredible coach, a brilliant guy, but he has all the ingredients that make up a great coach. He understands leadership. He understands the value of the young men he coaches. And more importantly, he is serving, the Ivy League serves a mission that I truly believe in, of real student athletes, guys that want to be professional players. They really want to be the very best that they can be. When I say professional players, NBA or international. But then when the ball stops bouncing, then all of a sudden they have a better life to look forward to. What's going to happen in the 40 years after them playing? And I think that's what the Ivy League, Brown University, and the others really give you an opportunity for. And I think you're going to really enjoy the things that, he talks about, the things that are really important in their program, talking about culture, real substance of things, their values, more importantly, their high level of basketball, the development, how important it is, how the Ivy League rules are different than other D1 schools. It's an amazing thing there, but I think you're really going to enjoy, because every time I have an Ivy League coach on, whether it's Mitch Henderson, Steve Donahue, people like that, they're high-level people. They're high-level. Their thought process is different than many other coaches, and I think you're going to take some nuggets from here. It's going to make you a better person, a better coach. So I want you to really enjoy, listening to Mike Martin. Remember, we have on July 12 and 13 in Las Vegas, Coaching You Live, our flagship event with 13, 14 NBA coaches. It is going to be powerful. The list we have out there already is spectacular. And we have a few VIP seats left. They're our most cherished courtside seats, with meal and swag and all that good stuff that you get, but up close and personal. General admission we went to last year, it was fantastic and very inexpensive for those that have come to different than the VIP price, but you're right there. The environment, the arena, the venue that we use is very small, so you're right on top of the speakers. You get a chance to participate, ask all the questions you want. I think you'll find it to be incredible. But the biggest thing is the learning. The learning is from NBA, G League, head coaches, assistant coaches, and I think there you're going to get what really is a different form of basketball than high school and college, but stuff that you can incorporate into your program at any level. So it's a huge thing for learning. Obviously, if you can't make it, there's a live stream to it. Go to coachingyoulive.com/2025 to sign up. There'll be information about our live stream coming out in July, but I think you're going to find out that this and our app are the way to learn. And if you can't get there, make sure you get our app at coachingyou+plus.com to subscribe to the app. After a quick break from our sponsors, we'll be right back with Mike Martin, head coach of Brown University. Noah Basketball is our new presenting sponsor of our Coaching You podcast. Noah Basketball is a shot tracking and data company that has helped change how coaches and players perfect the game's most important skill, shooting. Noah is a data service provider that uses machine learning and the latest computer vision technology to provide real-time data and feedback to improve shooting accuracy and consistency for professional and amateur basketball players. Noah has now analyzed over 570 million shots from countless high school, hundreds of college teams, and 28 NBA franchises. The technology is simply amazing. Once the system has been installed, players will be able to get immediate feedback on their shooting arc, left and right positioning, depth, makes or misses, and makes the data available to players and coaches on your mobile device. For more information about how Noah can help your team, visit noahbasketball.com. Coaches, are you looking to take your game preparation to the next level? Then Fast Model Sports is the perfect coaching software for you. With FastDraw, build an organized library of plays and drills and create professional playbooks to share with your players and staff. You can also download over 9,500 free plays and drills from our Playbank directly to your FastDraw account. Looking for a better way to build your scouting reports and want to include video? With FastScout, build custom scouting report templates to prepare your team best for each individual opponent. Plus, did you know with the latest updates from Fast Model Sports, you can now include video with your FastScout reports and share with your coaches and staff all within the FastScout mobile app. The combination of FastDraw and FastScout is by far the best way for you and your coaches to create winning game strategies and effectively communicate them to your team. Over 10,000 high school and youth coaches trust Fast Model Sports products to help their teams reach their goals. To order, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any FastDraw or FastScout products. Remember, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any FastDraw and FastScout products. And welcome to another Coaching You podcast with the coach Brendan Suhr, presented by Noah Basketball. Today, Mike Martin, the head coach of Brown University, is our guest. Mike, how are you, my friend?
Brendan, I'm great. It's a pleasure to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
I think as I've told you before, growing up in New Jersey, being a Northeast guy, Princeton University was, about an hour away. I would always go down and watch Pete Carrill practice and loved him to death. And, really loved the Princeton basketball back then. And, really got to, see all that great basketball. Columbia University, not far across the Hudson River from where I lived in North Jersey. And back when I first was in high school, the great coach at Columbia was a legend by the name of Jack Rowan. And he was just a phenomenal coach. And I remember the first coaching clinic I ever went to, I was actually a college player. And I went to it, and they had all these incredible coaches, Dean Smith and everyone, at a hotel by JFK Airport. But Jack Rowan from Columbia ran the clinic. And I sat there, and I just said, my God, these guys are legends, and this is such a hard business. And I just reveled in what Ivy League coaches, to me, they were at such a pedestal because they were all around me. And then getting to know so many of them over the years. You played at Brown. You were a terrific player there. And did you ever dream of going into coaching? Especially, as I always say, my friends that go to the Ivy League, their parents send them there. You end up as an economics major like you, and they say, "What do you want to do now?" I think I'm going to be a coach. How did that happen for you?
My first response is, man, the quality of coaches in the league has really changed. If I'm here now, and grew up thinking, about legends like Pete Carrill and Jack Rowan, but no, it's
Chuck Daly at Penn
Chuck
back
Daly.
then.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you go on and on. So I'm a son of a coach, Brendan. My
Oh,
father was a longtime high school coach in Springfield, Mass. You probably remember he coached an all-time great by the name of Mark Hall, who went to Minnesota and played with
absolutely.
Dale and Trent
Great
Tucker.
guard.
He had 3 state championship teams at Commerce High School in Springfield, Mass. And
Yep.
to say that he wasn't a huge influence on me doing what I do now would be, a massive understatement. And then my connection with Glenn Miller, who I played for here at Brown, Jim Calhoun disciple,
Yep.
great coach, still coaching Division III at University of St. Joseph's in West Hartford, Connecticut. Him and Coach Calhoun started that program.
Yeah, I remember that.
Those two guys kind of, obviously my father and Coach Miller were huge reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. I never forget the conversation I had with my dad when I was in school. And, I never knew what my parents paid for me to go to Brown. They never wanted that to be part of my decision. I had scholarship opportunities. They said, go where you feel comfortable. And, we were on financial aid. Both my mom and dad were, in education. My dad ended up being athletic director. My mom was a long time middle school teacher in Springfield, Mass. And I just said, hey, Dad, I may need some help with student loans because I'm going into coaching. I may want to go into coaching. And,
How about that?
obviously it worked out. It worked out so well. It's 20 years later. It's like I'm living a dream. I wake up every day. I get to go, work to try to get my alma mater as good as we can in basketball. I work with amazing people, and it's just I've been very fortunate, very
It,
very
it,
fortunate.
Talk to us about the Ivy League. I hold it in such high regard, probably because I grew up knowing it, appreciating how good the players were. The rules, of course, were so different. I literally saw Bill Bradley play on the freshman team as a young kid, like at Princeton, back when, and then the Ivy League was late to even allow players to play as freshmen, I believe. I'm just trying to remember. I
Right.
mean, I
Right.
played freshman ball when I went to college, but uh, they're the only Division I conference in the country that doesn't allow athletic scholarships, quote unquote, and it's a totally different mission. Correct?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So our guys are serious about basketball, right?
Very
They
much.
want to play professionally just as much as anyone else in Division I, anyone else in the country. They also happen to be amazing students and really bright and have a lot of other interests. We always say they choose Brown because they want to play professionally, but they also want to prepare themselves for what comes after.
Hmm.
Their hopefully a long pro career. Everyone on our team is turning down, scholarship offers and opportunities elsewhere, because of the opportunity they have here. And, I just think the league is, continued to evolve and grow and get better. The tournament, we didn't have that when I was a player at Brown, and I know we'll probably talk about that. I think that's been great for the league. Our deal with ESPN, I can go into a home in California or Texas or Florida and say, hey, you can watch your son play every game on ESPN,
That's pretty good.
ESPN Plus or ESPNU, so it just continues to get better. I mean, and I think you and I talked about a little bit off air, the quality of coaches across the league right now. I mean, it's really good basketball, and I think the guys leading the respective programs are a major reason why.
And I think we see when they do get to the NCAA tournament, whether it's Mitch's team at Princeton a couple of years ago, or whether it's Joe every year at Yale, they seem to really upset people and play incredibly well. And you got to be proud of that.
Yeah, Steve Donahue took Cornell to the Sweet 16. Tommy's won games in the tournament at Harvard. Obviously, James and what he's done at Yale, multiple wins in the tournament, and Mitch, like you mentioned. So, and even in the non-conference, like we feel good about some of our performances and wins we've had in the non-conference in my tenure, and Columbia, Cornell, everyone in the league, has really gotten serious about basketball, and we think that and obviously today's landscape, things are changing by the minute, but for the families of the kids who really want the best academic and basketball experience, we think we can provide a great combination.
Talk about your style of play at Brown. What separates you from others, or what's the style of play for a kid that if he's coming there, that he can expect to play offensively and defensively?
We've gotten very athletic. I would tell you that we're flexible and adaptable. We can build a style. I think that's our job as coaches. Who's our best players? What's the best style for those guys? But we've gotten very athletic. Probably over the last 6-7 years, Brendan. What I learned early in my time is if you can't physically stand up to Tommy's teams at Harvard and James's teams at Yale, from a physicality, athleticism, obviously Princeton as well. If you can't physically compete with them, you're not going to win. So, for us, if we can't get the most, if we can't get a guy who has everything, athleticism, skill, physicality, and all those and smarts, if we're going to sacrifice it all, we're going to sacrifice a little bit of skill and hope that we can develop you. But we want to be physical. We want to be athletic. We want to be able to defend. And, as a result, I think anyone who's watched us play, you see, like we have, we can compete physically with most teams. And, we just try to find guys that love basketball, that want to be coached, that want to be told the truth. I've got an unbelievable staff of guys who've played at a really high level. And our guys love to be in the gym, and they've gotten better. So, like, if you come in maybe a little bit raw, but physically you've got some tools, now all of a sudden by the time you're a junior or senior, you can be pretty good if you commit to the process.
Talk about the coaching staffs in the Ivy League now, where all of a sudden, you go to a Power 4 school and you'll see 8 or 10 guys that are there on the staff. We have limitations of staff in the Ivy, which always piss me off, frankly, because my thing is, would we limit the great professors that we have in our different schools? Because there's, why would we not just provide the best for these young men who also have a desire? But I don't want to go there too much. I'll let you go. But tell our audience what the staff limitations you have, which is big for your recruiting because you're recruiting nationwide.
Yeah, and internationally too. I mean, this is international players in our league. Traditional staff in the league has head coach, 3 assistant coaches, and then an operations coordinator, and that's that's pretty much it. We've got some student managers that help after they get out of classes with some practice drills, but it's really a staff of 5. I haven't been on a staff that big that you talk about, the Power 4 with 8, 10, 12 coaches. And, I can't imagine what some staff meetings would be like. I think that we do everything we can with what we have. And like the guys that I have, aren't afraid to get on the court. They're not afraid to work with, guys obviously outside of practice time. They're not afraid to get on the court and be, defenders and drop coverage if we want to give our guys a look without, kind of going 5-on-5. So we found a way to make it work for us. And, I think that, I think it's been our model, and we've just kind of done what we can with it.
We talk about, I was looking at, someone pointed out to me, sent me a clip yesterday that 36 years ago today is when Isaiah Thomas and I invented the Jordan rules during a playoff series against the Bulls. How about that? And someone sent me the clip, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm saying, this is incredible. It's Chuck Daly, who's absolutely the most brilliant coach I've ever been next to, Brendan Malone, who's Mike Malone's dad, and myself. That's it. There's 2 assistants, a head coach. To your point, when we always had that size staff until I think we went to Orlando, then it had like 3 people. And you know what? It's hard to manage a lot of people in meetings because everyone wants to talk and contribute. I prefer small staffs.
And how about, you guys compete for an NBA World Championship with that staff you just talked
every
about.
Year.
Yeah.
Every year. And some teams had 3, but now I don't even know how to manage Stan Van Gundy told us on a podcast that when he was running the Pistons, he hired 70 people in his basketball operations department. 70. You
It's
know,
amazing.
when
I
I
mean,
went to, yeah, when I went to the Hawks, we had 7 in the whole organization in every position. You know, it's crazy.
I was going to say, I recall a quote from Red Auerbach. I think he said, "What do you need all these coaches for? There's only 10 guys on the court. You know, you just got to be able to watch 10 guys. What do you need all these other guys on?"
Exactly. The big word that we talk about, and I'm fascinated with it because you have very intelligent guys, but you also have high character guys. And cultures become this, I hate to, just such a big word in all of team sport, in every sport. When you're at a school with very smart kids, very good kids that have life goals like they do, how do you then get it? How do you develop at Brown your culture?
Well, we talk about culture, and I think we're one of the few programs where it's still real. Like we had 11 guys that have eligibility to come back to Brown next fall. They're all coming back.
Wow.
Not one guy leaving. The culture is people. Who are the people you have, and what are their habits? What's the process? So, like we always talk about our people and our process. The more work we do on the front end, Brendan, to make sure we're getting the right people for us, they're going to drive our culture every day. So, like our culture is a culture of work, a culture of development, and a culture of care. Like our guys love to work, they love to get better, and they care about each other, and they feel the care for my staff and me every day and what they do. That's what, it's pretty simple. But when you have people who are committed to being in a program and committed to their development and committed to the process, I always say this too. Like I always ask recruits in early conversations, we talk about our values as a program. What do we stand for? What do we believe in? How many years have we been playing basketball here at Brown? Some say 50, some say 70, some say 75, some say 20. I said next year will be our 120th season of Brown basketball, right?
Damn.
So we have a commitment to everyone who's come before us and who will come after us. Let's leave this thing better than we found it.
Wow.
So and when you have our model, let's recruit the best high school players. Let's develop them over 4 years. Let's give them all the love and care that we can while telling them the truth, what they need to do to get better. That's when you have a culture. And that's when you have and obviously I have friends that are going through it at the highest level of, rebuilding a team every year. If you don't know who your teammates are from year to year, how strong can your culture be? And that's where I think ours is. We obviously have some, things that we're lacking here in our league, but when you have retention, when you have continuity, when you have stability, and you have great people, that's when I think you have a chance to build a strong culture.
I think it's near impossible. Izzo and I had a conversation about 2 months ago, and he said, Brendan, and I've known Tom since the 80s when he started as an assistant at Michigan State, and he said, I've always worked at developing guys over 4 years, and now all of a sudden they're telling me I got to do it in 8 months. And I don't know how to do it. And then our other buddy, who was my next door neighbor when I lived in Detroit, coaching the Pistons, was Greg Campy, who's been at Oakland U for 44 years, right? And he says, hey, you old bastard. He said, we're going to have to adapt, both of us, or we're going to die. And I said, and that was very important to Tom because, take what we used to do in 4 years, put it in 8 months. But, you got to be spectacular to do it. You have to have great kids. But what your program is about 4 years of love and care. And I think that's powerful.
It's and, obviously the proof is in the pudding and how you act and how you behave every day. We're not immune to the transfer portal. Obviously, there's guys leaving our league, more than ever before because of opportunities that are out there for them. And I don't blame them. I don't question them. But for the ones that stay, I can tell you I believe in what this thing's all about and what it can do. And I think about, obviously, I wore the jersey, Brendan. I had a chance to play with some amazing, people here. And I think about what they're doing now. And, I always say, like, we're doing everything we can to win Ivy League championships and represent this school and this league in the NCAA tournament. And that's the number one priority every day. Right there with it is how do I make sure these guys have the best experience possible and then connect them with the people who played here in our network so that they can find what they want to do when their career's done.
because rules have changed so much in college, day to day, year to year, is it still true that you guys cannot work with players over the summer?
We can't.
That's
We
what I
can't.
thought.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No
I
summer
had
action.
to. That's
No,
why I used to know, but I didn't know if they've changed it. Okay, and that is, I'm going to let you answer. Is that a competitive advantage or disadvantage?
I'm going to tell you it's an advantage.
I good.
People who recruit against us would say, "Oh, you can't even practice with them in the summertime." I would tell you this: we're going to recruit the right guys who are driven to get better, whether I'm with them or not.
Mm-hmm.
A break for me is healthy in the summertime.
Yeah.
And it's the NBA model, right? Your season ends in the NBA. What do? You go home, you work with your trainer, and you come back in 3 months to training camp, and you're a better player.
Yeah.
We send these guys home with PDPs, player development plans. We talk to them. We stay connected with them. Not every day. They don't want to hear from me every day, but like semester ends, exams end in May. Some guys are, in New York City this summer for internships. Some guys are going to come back and work with our strength coach. They are allowed to do that. Other guys will go home and they'll train and they'll come back in late August. And I can't wait to see what they look like. I think it's an advantage. I really do.
I think it's a huge advantage because I think right now there's so much overtraining going. I think sometimes damaging of relationships. All of a sudden now, a new player now, because they're all new, comes into a power four and all of a sudden he counts up and there's 9, 10 new players and he's never on the starting group when you're practicing in June or July. Why did I come here? But the advantage of the NBA model, you finish in mid-April, you don't make the playoffs. They're not allowed to touch you until October 1. You can voluntarily come in and work out voluntarily, but there are no workout. And I think it's a huge advantage. I totally agree with you. Plus, your guys, they're going to have a real life after basketball. And boy, they could opportunities I'm sure they get in the summer, whether they be on Wall Street or with any business that they are interested in, seem to be absolutely endless and boundless.
No doubt. Like, I'll just give you our 3 rising seniors for next year. 2 of whom I think will be all league players, and another one, unfortunately, just battled injury throughout his career. But what they're doing this summer, Goldman Sachs, Wells Fargo, and then a private equity firm, local one here in Providence. They have internships with those employers. Like, what's that going to lead to? I mean, that's why you choose Brown, because of those kinds of opportunities. So if we had summer access, maybe they can't take full advantage of those opportunities.
Oh, no, they wouldn't, right? Yeah, and now the new thing at these schools is if you academically are eligible next year, you don't even have to take a class in the summer at the school you're at, which is kind of absurd, But I think it's a huge advantage. Let's get to the tournament. I love that the Ivy finally got a tournament in there, an 8-team, one of the smallest size conferences in the country. Correct, of the Division
I think
Ones.
it's the smallest. Maybe the MEAC has 8 as well, but I think if we're not the smallest, we're
tied,
somewhere
right?
else.
And but incredibly competitively, we have 4 teams in the tournament. As an advocate for the Ivy League, I recommend to our wonderful executive director that we should go to 8 teams. For the student athlete experience, which I truly believe in, and you do, or else you wouldn't be in the Ivy League. You'd be a Power 4 head coach because you are certainly qualified and good enough. But what an experience for these kids who are going to go on to greatness in life to be able to say, yeah, the last time I played as a senior, I played in a tournament and we upset Yale, we upset Harvard, or we just flat out beat Princeton, et cetera. We wasn't upset. We beat them. And I think that's memories. And I think that's the experience I always talk about. And I know you can't go against the league, but your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I'm grateful that the league has given us the opportunity to have this tournament because when I was a student athlete, we didn't have it. When I got into coaching, we didn't have it until 2017, we didn't have it.
Right.
So I'm grateful that we do have it. However, all 8 of us want 8 teams in. We talk about it in every league meeting, and we share our thoughts with the athletic directors and the folks that run the league office. Hopefully we get there one day. For now, obviously we have the 4. it's an amazing event. We had the good fortune to play in the tournament in 2024 down at Columbia, and
I remember that.
we can talk about that, I'm sure. But great win on Saturday, and then felt like we were 26 seconds away from being in the big NCAA tournament. And obviously couldn't close it out. But for my players, my student athletes, to have that experience on that stage, for our alumni, for our fans, for the Brown basketball community to all kind of come together. Why wouldn't we want to try to do that every year for everyone involved instead of just 4 teams?
Oh, I know we were at Yale last year, I believe. Does it rotate now? How is it going? Or is Yale seem to be a permanent site? What is it?
We're getting close to the end of a 8-year rotation where all 8 will host. So next year's in Ithaca at Cornell. Then the last of the rotation will be in Hanover, New Hampshire at Dartmouth. And then I'm not sure what we'll do from there. But each of the other 6 has had a chance to host at least once. Penn hosted the first 2. Obviously the Palestra.
Iconic venue. Yeah.
And so, but we'll see where it goes after the 2027 tournament.
I think it's great, and it is cool that Dartmouth and Cornell get a thing to do it. But I think it would be wonderful for all 8 of the teams. This is not Mike Martin asking it. This is Brendan Suhr suggesting this as a basketball consultant. That's all. But I would love that because I think the players and the coaches in that league who work so tirelessly all year to do it. Mike, talk about you brought up the game at Columbia. I only watch about 10,000 games a year. I'm watching that game, and we've all been in games like that. Talk about that game for you, and and the kids and stuff like that. I've won games like that, so have you, and I've lost games like that.
Yeah, I would just say for our guys played so well the whole weekend.
Absolutely.
Like that Princeton team was a top 50 team all year. They went 25-3 in the regular season. And, we beat them as the 4 seed. And, obviously that's the kind of the dark side of March, right? Princeton dominates the regular season, and then all of a sudden we beat them on that Saturday. And then the Yale team, obviously they go on and beat Auburn the following week in the NCAA tournament. It was kind of a slugfest. Neither team, found their rhythm offensively. I think a lot of had to do with the other team's defense, but we kind of got it going a little bit, and our guys played so well, and we built a 6-point lead. I mean, our point guard, Keno Lilly, is just a special player. I mean, he was amazing that entire weekend. But we had a 6-point lead, and I think maybe we could have done 1 or 2 things, differently in those last 30 seconds. But at the end of the day, Yale made plays, Brendan. They made shots, they made plays. They had a 3-point play. And I thought we executed what we wanted to execute, in terms of press breakers, defensive, coverages, fouling, and credit to Yale. They made, they made 1 more play than we did. We were 6 seconds away from being in the first NCAA tournament in Brown history since 1986, right? We've been twice as a program, 1939 and 1986. And,
wow.
We were obviously, we could taste it. And I just was crushed for our players.
For your kids, yeah.
It was the locker room after the game was, something like I've never experienced before.
I've never talked to anyone on, our hundreds and hundreds of podcasts about this, and I've had to go through it where you have a loss that, it's just the end of the season or where. How do you, for coaches out there, because we have a ton of high school, college coaches that listen, how do you handle the ultimate disappointment for the players? Obviously for yourself, but for the kids, it's always the first. How do you handle it?
It was just raw. I mean, it was me at my core. I mean, I cried with them. I put my arm around them. I hugged them. I told them how lucky I was to be their coach. And then, went and did the post game, whatever I had to do, my obligations, and then got back on the bus with them and was with their families. And I mean, it was to the point we were so close. I actually got a couple congratulatory texts, people who thought we had won the game because
they saw the scores that go
late. And,
God.
Yeah, and you know what, if that's the worst thing that happens, life's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I've said this so many times, and I will never feel differently. Better to be in that game and lose it the way we did than to not be in the game, right? So like we learn from it, we grow from it. It's driven us, and obviously last year we had some injuries and didn't quite get back to where we wanted to get to. But I know that moment in Columbia in March of 2024 is that made us better as a program, made me better as a leader, and we're going to use it going forward.
When you coach kids like you do, there's every season that ends for me, even if we didn't have a good team, there's nothing like it. And I remember John Madden used to say it when he was broadcasting NFL games, and he used to call it the finality of it all, right? When the season ends. I don't know if I've ever finished the season when we went into the locker room as an assistant coach, I was, where I didn't cry my eyes out, because you pour so much into it. The kids pour so much, shoot, I'd cry when I watch Oprah, for crying out loud, back in the, I mean, but there's something they see your vulnerability, they see your authenticness with them, and it's why you're truly a family. It's so special, and when you have young men like you have that are going to be a family, for years and years later, it's special and stuff like that.
It is, and I'll tell you, like, make a ton of mistakes. I've made a ton of mistakes in my career. I'm going to make way more, but I can live with them when I'm, authentic, right? And I'm genuine and I'm true to who I am. We had commencement this past weekend, right? So 5 graduating seniors,
Jeez.
and then our 3 seniors from last year's team all came back. We had some guys from other years back too, but it was like the 8 of those guys all being together. I was with them Friday night, and then Sunday again on graduation day. Just like the bond that they have.
Isn't that great?
It's 4 years of everything they experienced, but like that game, I mean, obviously, like it did not go the way we wanted to, but it brought those guys closer together. I truly believe that.
There's nothing like the bond of great teams. I mean, it's like those forge relationships forever, I think, and that is special. And that I used to ask coaches all the time. You answered it kind of in the beginning, but let's expand on it. As a very talented student and a really, really good player, you downplayed how damn good a player you are and how you can still outshoot every player in your team. I know that. Why are you coaching, and why now, with all the turmoil? I was at a deal last week where I was with 10 high major coaches, football and basketball. Every one of them was miserable. Every one of them was miserable. And they make every one of them millions. And I'm saying, but why are you coaching now with all that's going on?
Well, no doubt, like just being around the game and being around the sport and seeing the relationships my father had with his players from a very young age. Glenn Miller, like what he and his staff provided for me, like I would not trade my experience here at Brown for anything. Like I feel so good about what I learned, how I grew, and what life lessons those guys taught me. Can I have maybe somehow, some way, the same kind of impact on these young men, right? So that's, if you ask me why, I wanna influence young men. I wanna allow them to have the best experience possible. I want Brown basketball to prepare them for what comes next. When I got here, Brendan, I had no idea. Like I didn't even know what Wall Street was when I was, started my freshman year here. One of my buddies' best friends, who's been a mentor since my first day as a freshman, said he had an internship with Goldman Sachs that summer. I had to go back and look it up. What is Goldman Sachs?
Sure.
So like, this place opened my eyes, and I thought about maybe I interviewed and accepted at one point an analyst job at an investment bank in the fall of my senior year, and then decided I wanted to go play. Spent a season in Ireland playing.
I'm proud of you for doing that, brother.
What an experience that was. The people there, the relationships I formed over there were amazing. And then Coach Miller gave me an opportunity to come back and coach, and here I am 20 years later, and it's amazing. Like the pandemic, we took away a season from us, right?
That was awful. Unfortunately,
we didn't play, and I think it was obviously it was really hard. A lot of people I think would tell you the Ivy League might have made the right decision there. But I remember that year talking to Jeff Van Gundy, who's become a friend of mine. And, I bounced different things off of. And, he asked how I was doing. I said, well, I haven't been in a losing locker room in a long time, Jeff. We haven't played a game. There's nothing worse than that feeling of being on the losing end. And he said, Mike, there's one thing worse. No feeling.
Wow.
And it like that thing has resonated with me so
That is
much.
great. That is
the
great.
opportunity we get to have to go through competition with people we love and care about and put so much time in, like the ability to put yourself out there and compete with those people. I love what I do. I love what I do.
Jeff Van Gundy is one of the we coached against each other for years, and he's one of the most brilliant minds in the game. But he also has this incredible feel for just life in general. I mean, it's just with comments like that. Everyone thinks of Jeff as X and O only. He's so much more. Stan is the same way. And if you know Bill, their dad, you see why.
Yeah.
He's a treasure, But I was talking to a coach this morning, and they said, do you guys in the NBA have assistant coaches of the year like they do in college football and stuff like that? I said, no, but if they did this year, the runaway would be Jeff Van Gundy. He was so incredible what he helped his friend Ty Lue with the defense at the Clippers. I think it had an effect on the whole league, and I think you're seeing it in the playoffs. Brilliant, brilliant coach.
He's amazing, and I think he's a better person, like you said, and an incredibly smart person. I don't watch, obviously, from like November to March. My NBA viewing is limited, but one of my former associate head coach, TJ Sorrentine, who I'm sure you know well.
Great player, Vermont.
Now with Brian Keefe in the Washington Wizards. And he told me early in the season, like November, December, he said, man, just when you get a chance, check out the Clippers and how they're defending. Like they are like it. He was, and it's obviously Jeff, what he's been able to do there. And what I love the most, as the season went on and they had more and more success and more people wanted to kind of cover the story, he made it all about Ty and the players, right?
Yes.
Like I think he even declined interviews and
deferred everything.
Everything. And an amazing coach for sure.
Where do you go, Mike, at this stage of your career, but still an avid learner? Where do you go to get better and learn?
Well, we've got, being so close with David Patrick, we've got the motley crew.
The ultimate motley crew, yes.
Coaches, right? And our ringleader there is John Gallagher, who's kind of like the ultimate connector of people. But
that's a great term, yep.
That group, kind of just started, we all hang out at the Final Four and, catch up and, have fun and get a chance to, see each other after, long seasons. And then during COVID, we didn't have our Final Four. We started getting together on Zoom and talking ball. And
is that when it started? Okay.
Twice a week, we would do Zoom clinics, and coaches would, we'd take turns presenting on different things and topics. And, we had like 14 or 15 of us. And it was just, great.
Have you kept your membership down, or are you taking new members?
Well, you got to run that by the chairman, John Gallagher. He's the ultimate ringleader there. But I think we're open to any and all.
That's funny. I remember Gal grabbed Zach and I were at the Final Four having a meeting with a high school coaching friend of ours from Orlando, and Gal comes right into our meeting and says, "Excuse me," and proceeds to have a basketball question in the middle of our business meeting, and comes over and brings me over to you to talk about God knows what the hell I was talking about substitutions of how many guys are playing in a game. I don't know what it was, but it was important to him. But it was the random topics that he comes up with and stuff. But he is a one of one. Is that fair, Gal?
He is, and he's got a heart of gold. I shared an office with him at Penn for 2 years.
Oh, my God!
Early on in my time.
My God! You're going to heaven twice. Yes.
Yeah, he's got a heart of gold. He's a great friend.
Yeah. No, that motley crew, and David Patrick is a dear friend of Zach's and mine, and it is one of the great advantages of being in Baton Rouge is I get to talk to him every day. I see him often and stuff like that, and he's one of our dearest friends. But he abandoned Zach and I after 1 year of making me come here, and then all of a sudden he left me. But I'm not a jilted lover. I still talk to him every single day. But with your group, you have real wholesome basketball discussions and stuff like that, where people are trying to help each other.
For sure. It's a good text thread. I mean, I think a lot of the, when, you have a tough loss, you have you're going through a tough stretch and you got to, just people to talk to. I think those are probably more obviously one-on-one conversations. I'm in touch with Coach Miller, and, the lessons he taught me, I go back to all the time. I worked for Jerome Allen at Penn, and
Yep.
Jerome's in the NBA. And, so like I've got so many, the other thing I do is, you think about the Brown Network, like in, the success of some of our guys, maybe not in sport, maybe not in basketball, but like leaders of amazing companies. And, so you share ideas about leadership and management. And, I think I've been fortunate to, be able to, bounce a lot of ideas off a lot of different people across a diversity of industries.
I think right now, what I see at the highest level of basketball, college and pro, is X's and O's are very, very important. Player development is super important, but the connection and leadership from a coach is the most important with your group. And any advice you can give to coaches that are on this podcast that they can help them in developing their style of leadership?
I could not agree more. I would say that goes back to what we talked about earlier. Like, who are you at your core as a leader, right? Like, be your authentic self. Be genuine to who you are. Don't try to be someone else. And, I've got some things certainly that I can do a whole lot better with our group. But I think, I know every one of my players. If you ask them, does coach have your back? They know they're going to say yes. And, I'm whatever that means for a specific player at a certain time, maybe the approach is different, for different people clearly. But like, who am I as a leader? Who am I as a person? I'm going to double down on those qualities, and I'm going to, just show those to my players and try to help them as best I can.
I think you made a comment earlier, Mike, about being truthful with your players. And I think that is one of the real important things. A lot of coaches are afraid. Courage, I think, has become a lacking thing from a lot of coaches. They're afraid to coach and demand because they're afraid at the schools that they're going to leave on them. And I don't think you can coach that way.
I don't either. I think they can leave either way.
Right. Right. So be yourself.
So be who you are. And like, I always say this, there's two kind of truths out there, Brendan. There's the truth that we all love to hear. Brendan, you run a great podcast. You're an amazing coach. You have a brilliant basketball mind. All those truths you love to hear. What about the other truth, though? Brendan, you didn't box out. You didn't run back hard enough on defense. You know what? Your teammate was on the floor. You didn't run over to pick him up. Like, I got to tell you that truth, too. And I say to my guys all the time, it's my job to tell you both. As your leader, as the leader of the program, I got to tell you both truths, not just the ones you want to hear. So it's all built on trust and relationships. And again, fortunately, by the time a guy gets to be a senior, like Aaron Cooley just graduated for us, great player, an amazing person, like just destined for greatness as he moves on here. But I first saw him play when he was a freshman in high school.
Wow.
And, obviously we didn't start recruiting him until probably the end of his sophomore year, but by now I've known him for like 7-8 years, and like we can look each other in the eye and both say, we know who we're talking to, and we can tell each other the truth, so I think that helps too.
I think it's important that it goes both ways also.
Yeah.
The conversation is only not downhill from you to them.
As much as I may not want to hear what they tell me, it's their job to tell me, the truth as well. You're 100%.
I remember, I worked when I first came in the NBA. UB Brown was my high school coach, and then he was my coach when I came into the NBA with the Hawks. And he was a very type A. He's telling you the way it is. Then I go with Chuck Daly, totally the opposite. Yet they were best friends. And Chuck said to me, we can't talk to them like that. They're our business partners. And I said, and you know what? Because we're both working together as business partners, and you would never insult your business partner if you wanted success for your company. And it was a whole new, it was like all of a sudden, I always say Chuck gave me my PhD in coaching because he was so brilliant like that. He made me understand that the players were way more important than us.
I
Way
love
more.
that.
Isaiah and Dumars and those guys to this day say, yeah, we won 2 championships, but we won despite Chuck and Brendan. And Chuck thought that was the greatest. He thought that was great. Because they own the team.
Well, and it's like, and I've heard you talk about this and obviously your podcast is amazing. I listen to so many unbelievable episodes, but we can have our ideas about how to guard a ball screen. What Isaiah and Bill Lambier think is probably a whole lot better than what we might think, right? As coaches.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Wait a minute, I tell them what to do, right? That's what Ubi and Fratello told me. I'm going to tell them to hedge the ball screen. Chuck said, I don't care what you want to do. It's more important what they want to do. But he didn't tell me till all of a sudden I put the play in that the Knicks are going to run, and all of a sudden they're saying, no, we're going to do it this way. Chuck said, sounds perfect.
And that's when I think, we've had our best successes when, we have an idea as a staff, and then the guys get on the court and say, hey, coach, how about this? And it's, what? It's usually 99% of the time it's the right thing.
And Chuck used to say, Brendan, if it's the worst idea in the world, we can change it in a timeout. Relax. Just relax. We're not going to – against a good team, you don't do the same thing the whole game. Anyway, the good players are good enough to make an adjustment. Mike, we could go for hours. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you doing this, and absolutely love the Ivy League, love what you do. I've always been so – I just love what you do. And David Patrick said that there might not be a better shooting coach at D1 basketball. That's pretty damn strong.
Well, that is very nice of him. He must not have seen me shooting recently. But
oh, he said you're getting up a lot of shots a day, as he said.
That's awesome. I'll tell you what, it's a pleasure to be on with you. And thanks for what you do for coaches, all the things you do, and it's been my pleasure to be on with you.
Thank you so much, Mike. Best of luck this year.
Thanks, Brendan.